Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So today, I'm making a trip over to the junkyard. When I went to Woodward, I had some issues with running hot in traffic. Hadn't had that issue before, so I think my electric fans are starting to crap out. These are just some cheap Amazon, like a pair of them for $25 that I've been running for the last 3 years, and I think they just finally gave up the ghost. So instead of going that route, what I've read is a lot of guys have been going to Ford Contour fans. This is an aftermarket aluminum radiator, and I guess the Ford Contour fan fits in there really good. My only concern is the spacing, right, between the water pump and the radiator. So we'll have to see what kind of spacing there is when I get there and measure it. I only have like 3 inches roughly, spacing. So we'll have to see what goes on there. When I go to the pull apart and see what we got here. So anyway, I'll take some pictures of the before, what I made up, to try and work for the last couple of years, and then, the install of the new one and how I wire it up to my relays. So anyway, let me go to the pull apart. Let me get it out. I'll show you how to test it while you're at the pull apart. With your battery from like your drill or your cordless drill. And then we'll bring it home and see what we got to do to mock this thing up. Well, there's only a couple of 2 fasteners, 10 millimeter, and then it'll slide up. And then there's basically a couple AC lines I'll have to cut out and remove. And then obviously cut some wires. So I'll flip the camera around here in a second and I'll show you that. So here's the AC line that I've already cut out. Kind of ran across the top here like so. Ran across the top. Pictures of that. But basically there's a 10 millimeter there, 10 millimeter over there, and you can see basically I've got the fan loose. Now it's hard to do this with one hand, but the fan is loose. I've got the AC line cut out of the way that ran across the top here. You'll need to remove this battery tray as well. And I've already cut this one out, this wire harness, and this wire harness down here, which is for like the AC pressure switch. So I think I may have one more harness over there I need to maybe disconnect or cut for that side fan, and then we'll try to pull this thing out of here. All right guys, you can see this tube here. It went across, connected to here, and then came out. Well, I had to cut this out using my new favorite tool, this guy. So I'm about to test this thing. You can see I've got my battery here. This is hooked up to battery positive, this lead. You can see the fan. It's hooked up to battery negative here. Whoops, sorry, battery negative for the fan. Battery positive for my little alligator clip. If you look at this, this is positive, this is the negative. You can see it loops around. Comes up here, goes through this connector, comes down. We're going to test it here, and you can see it comes around, goes into this fan. So what I'm going to do is attempt to set this camera up and show you that this fan works. Probably not going to be able to, but let me I'll clip the connector on, step back, show you high and low speed do work. Yes, I know, a little rusty. Low speed. And let me tell you guys, that moves some air. So you can see they both work. So I'm going to go ahead and buy this fan. All right guys, 39 bucks with tax and everything, and basically 1-year warranty, and if it fails I get my money back. All right guys, so what I've done is I just took some simple green, hosed this thing down real good, sprayed it out. If you notice, took the fans out. The reason I took the fans out, it's just basically just 3 screws that hold it in, 10 millimeter, and I just kind of wire wheeled them with the drill, and threw some black on it. This is a rust conversion black, just so it can kind of I guess, neutralize the rust a little bit, and then I'll put a little black on top to make them look a little better. So that's all I did to the motors, just to clean them up. I'm probably not going to put the cover back on because, you know, as much as I'm going to drive this on the street, right, it's probably not going to see any wet weather. I don't know, maybe we'll make one up, maybe I won't. But anyway, next step is to clean that up. Actually, what I need to do next is I want to clean this up a little bit, hit it with some electrical contact cleaner, wire brush, just kind of clean it a little bit real fast because there was some crap on it, a little corrosion. And then I'm going to come over here. Now I've got the old one out, and I'll show you the old one, you know, and fit it up. So here's the old one out of the car. And so these are actually the same size fans. All right, but if you notice the motor on this one, and then you notice the motor on that one, yeah, look at the beefiness here, right? How much more CFM this is going to pull than this thing. All right, guys, so what I need to do is take this, make two 1.5 inch wide pieces here. These are 14 inches long. These are these two fastener areas. There's one here and one down there. They're about 13 inches apart. So that leaves me room to attach this and then basically come over here, right? And then set this plate up, mark a hole there, drill a hole there, and attach this onto this. And that way we can secure it to the radiator. But the other thing I'll need to do is probably make a couple spacers and space this out a little bit because it'll be too tight to the radiator. You know, it'll hit the fan or the fins here. So then let me get these attached. We'll get the holes drilled out. And then we'll need to figure out how much of a spacer I need to put in here for this. All right, guys, so I've got the two side tabs mounted up. You can see I've got the bolt and the bolt with the original bolt holes that were, you know, the nut zerts that were installed on this from the radiator company. Looks like I need to remove this old aluminum tape I had on here. But what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and set the fan in place. You notice I don't have the fans in there. It makes it a whole lot easier to work with. All right, so we'll set this down in here carefully. There we go. And so what I've got here, it's got a little spacer. I'll make some new ones. This is one I just had lying around. It's probably, I don't know, about 1/4 inch thick if I had to guess. And if you notice, let me try and do this one. Okay, so I've got the spacer just holding on, and you notice I have a nice little gap to the radiator fins. All right, guys, so one thing I just did was all of this. Basically, you know, it clipped in here, ran over here, ran all the way over here. You know, one was for power steering, I believe, and I think the other one was for air conditioning. So I just pulled all this cabbage out that I'm not going to need. Get out of the way. I need to now retape this up. So basically now I've just got two wires. Low speed, high speed. And that is pretty much it. So we're going to leave this doohickey in there for now. Basically, I've still got the fans out of this while I test fit this thing up. I've got my shims made up for it. So now once I get this part of it all done, I got to fix that. Basically, there's no damage. I just need to tape it up. Looks like the factory did this. So I'm going to tape up the ground here real good and patch it up so she stays good. And then once I do that, then I can mark my holes over here on the flanges, drill them out, and bolt this sucker in place. And then we'll go from there. All right, guys. So one thing I just did was all of this. Basically, you know, it clipped in here, ran over here, ran all the way over here. You know, one was for power steering, I believe, and I think the other one was for air conditioning. So I just pulled all this cabbage out that I'm not going to need. Get out of the way. I need to now retape this up. So basically now I've just got 2 wires. Low speed, high speed. And that is pretty much it. So we're going to leave this doohickey in there for now. Basically, I've still got the fans out of this while I test fit this thing up. I've got my shims made up for it. So now once I get this part of it all done, I got to fix that. Basically, there's no damage. I just need to tape it up. Looks like the factory did this. So I'm going to tape up the ground here real good and patch it up so she stays good. And then once I do that, then I can mark my holes over here on the flanges, drill them out, and bolt this sucker in place. And then we'll go from there. All right, guys, so now what I've done is I bolted it on here. You can see the spacer there. See the bolt over there? There's a spacer there as well. What I did here is I drilled a couple of holes on these tabs because these tabs just slid into, you know, something on the factory radiator. So I drilled a hole on both sides on this type of tab. You can see I put a piece of tape there. And then what I did is just took a pencil, marked it. And now what I can do is remove this out and then drill these other 2 holes. Get my spacers in place, do a temporary bolt up, make sure all my clearances here look good and this is nice and rigid and it's not gonna, you know, bounce against the radiator as we're driving, right, and cause damage to the radiator core. So that is the next step in the mounting process. And then you can see here, right, I've got plenty of wire to come up to relays. I'm probably going to replace these relays and put in some 60 amperes. I just don't know if this, you know, gauge wire is heavy enough for this. So I might go ahead and just try it for tonight just to make sure it kicks on and everything works and go from there. But that's kind of where we're at on the mounting of the radiator or on the fan shroud. All right, guys, so the fan is all installed. It is all bolted up, ready to go. I did test it. I did upgrade these relays to 60 amps. I think I had 30s in there before. I'm going to obviously carry some spare relays with me. But what I am doing now is I am going to wire this up to this. I'll probably get rid of this connector because I don't think it's going to be strong enough of a connection for this. But what I'm working on right now is the ground side. So I'm gonna wire this up manually so I have a low switch and a high switch to run low and high speed fan. So what I'm gonna do is right here, I put this in a long time ago and I have no idea why I wired it up like that, but it's working to my benefit. Because what I'm going to do is I have another male and female connector. So what I'm gonna do is wire it up to where, you know, the male here goes into the female like so, right? I'll have the female go into this male there like so. Oops. I'll have the male go in here like that connector. We'll have this connector go in here. And then what I'll do is I'll run a wire from here into the car through a toggle switch and then back over to this side. And then the same for here. On this side, I'll run a wire, run it in on a toggle switch and come in here. So basically this is the ground side of this. So what happens is the sensor inside here, when it reaches 180, it flips, it goes through the wire over here, comes around, you can see my relay hits this black wire, makes contact, the relays provide power through here into the fans. So the way I had it wired up before is when that grounded, it basically ran through both of these ground wires. Okay, both ground wires came over, tripped both relays at the same time, and turned on both fans, all right, with this setup here. But now what I'm going to be doing is one relay is going to run low speed fan, one relay will run high speed fan. And so what I'll do is I'll toggle the switch to be low speed as the standard position. And let's say I start running a little warm or a little hot, what I can do then is turn the low speed off, turn the switch off, and then flip the high speed one on, so then the high speed will run through the ground circuit. So basically I use the ground circuit to control the fans.
That way I'm not adding extra connections and other problems that could go through the power wires. So I've got limited power wire, right? My power wire comes off this main stud, goes through, comes to each one of these circuit breakers. The circuit breaker then goes into the relays, and there comes out the relay and goes straight to the fans. All right, so that's how this is wired up. So I'm going to control the fans through the ground side, which basically I just can use simple wiring. I don't need, some heavy 12 gauge here to do this. I can do this with a simple, simple like 18, control the ground side. So I don't need a big wire to control it. So basically, like I said, the standard position will be the fan. I'll leave the ground or the switch on all the time for low speed. When I want to run high speed, I'll turn the low speed fan or the low speed fan off, and then turn the high speed fan on. So that way, they're not both trying to override each other and turn on high and low speed voltage at the same time. So let me go ahead and wire this up, and then I'll show you what it all looks like in the end. So guys, I hope this gives you a little better idea of what I was talking about. So now I've got, 2 wires here, yellow and a red. 2 wires here, yellow and a red. So what I'll do is I'll take the 2 yellows, for example, all right, put them on a switch, put the 2 reds on a switch, and let's say I'll make the yellows the low speed, and I'll make the reds the high speed, for example. So basically what I'll do is then I can leave like I said, the low speed on as the default. So when the temperature switch kicks on, right, goes to ground, then it'll turn on the fans on low speed. But let's say I start running warm on the temp gauge at idle, sitting in traffic. What I can do then is turn off the yellow wire, right, which is the low speed, flip over to the high speed fan, which is then the red, turn it on, and it'll complete the ground circuit to turn the relays on, which will then run on the high speed fans. All right, hey everybody, so I pretty much have this car done, except for wiring this inside the vehicle. It's pretty much all set. But what I've done is I've labeled the relays low and high, so I know which relay is low speed fan, which one is high speed fan. And what I've done is wired up a switch for the low speed fan. Yellow is going to be low speed, red is going to be the high speed fan. And right now they are both turned off. So what I've done is just grounded the switch for temporary, but normally, if it reaches 180, it will ground the temp switch there. And I'm going to leave the low speed fan always on as the default. So this will be normally on. So when it hits the 180, it turns on the fan. Now let's say I start running warm and I want to turn on the high speed. All I need to do is turn off the low speed, come over here, grab the high speed fan, and I get high speed fan. So if I'm cruising and I hit a bunch of traffic and I start running warm, I can switch over to the high speed. And if I'm cruising down the road, I can turn the high speed off, just turn the slow speed back on as default. And then, when that triggers, the temp sender triggers, then the low speed fan will come on. All right, guys. So what I do is I've got 2 4-pin relays set up. You can see the diagram there. There's the cooling fan. Top middle, there's the high and low speed relay. Just to the right of that, I run circuit breakers, or you can run fuses. Just below the circuit breaker is the battery, and then to the bottom left is the engine with the temp sender switch. And then you can see I've got the pins labeled as far as which circuit it is. The only thing I might have backwards is the green wires here and here. I may have those flipped backwards by accident for high and low speed there. But you can see the simple diagram that I've got laid out for you, and you can see, right here is my, where my 2 switches are on the vehicle, and I have a video for that I'll show you afterward of this. But here is the diagram that I used to wire this up. All right, guys, so right there is my high and low speed switches. just to the right there of the steering column. So the left switch is the low speed, right switch is the high speed. So I have it set up default right now for low speed. And then what I need to do, like I mentioned, is just turn the rocker switch down, turn the low speed off, flip the rocker switch up for the high speed, and we'll switch over and go low and high.
So guys, I hope this video helps you a little bit on how to install it, or how I installed it. Now granted, I am running a 26-inch radiator, not the 22-inch. And you can see the wiring diagram and what I did for low and high speed manually, instead of spending, $100 for one of the Durali or, one of the other brands of controllers, if you will. I'm sure there's other options out there. You can also go on where I've got the dual switch, dual relay. You can get a dual fan relay set up like off of Volvo, maybe at the Junkyard as well. There's a lot of different options which you can do. So anyway, guys, I hope, like I said, this helped you understand how to install a Ford Contour cooling fan on your vehicle. Not necessarily for just a Mopar, right, but for any project that you might have. So guys, like they say, like, subscribe, hit the little bell, share with your buddies, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good day in your shop, guys. Take care, and we'll see you on the next upload. Peace out.